I'm Delilah, 51 years young, from a little town called Harmony Creek, nestled somewhere in Oklahoma. I never thought much about death, to be honest. Life was a whirlwind of raising my two kids, Thomas and Emily, after my husband, bless his soul, passed away when they were little. I worked as a real estate agent, showing houses to families, helping them find their dream homes. It was a fulfilling job, although sometimes stressful, but it allowed me to connect with people and be a part of their life's big moments. My days were filled with appointments, open houses, and paperwork. Wake up, make breakfast, usually oatmeal with a dollop of honey, check my emails and schedule for the day, then head out to meet clients. Evenings were for catching up on paperwork, maybe watching a bit of TV, and then reading in bed until I drifted off. Weekends were for church, visiting my kids who both lived a couple of hours away, and sometimes catching up with my friend, Agnes. Now, Agnes was a character. She was a whirlwind of energy, always trying to get me to go out and do things. Delilah, she'd say, you're too young to be living like a hermit. Let's go dancing, or to that new Italian place, or on a cruise. I'd usually laugh and tell her I was perfectly content with my quiet life. But one time, she really got to me. She was talking about this ballroom dancing class she was taking. It's so much fun, Delilah. You should come with me. We need more partners. I hemmed and hawed, but Agnes was persistent. Finally, I gave in. All right, Agnes, I said. I'll try it, but if I hate it, I'm blaming you. The first class was a disaster. I felt awkward and clumsy, stumbling around like a newborn giraffe. The instructor, a tall, handsome man named Ricardo, was very patient, but I could tell he was struggling not to laugh. Don't worry, Delilah. Everyone's like that in the beginning, he told me with a grin. I stuck with it, though. Partly because I didn't want to let Agnes down, and partly because, well, it was kind of fun. After a few weeks, I started to get the hang of it. I even began to enjoy it, surprisingly. The music, the movement, the laughter. It was a welcome change from my usual routine. One day, Ricardo announced that there was going to be a dance competition. Nothing too serious, he said, just a bit of fun for the end of the term. Agnes, of course, was thrilled. She immediately started planning our outfits. I was less enthusiastic, but I went along with it. What did I have to lose? The night of the competition arrived, and the studio was buzzing with excitement. Agnes was wearing a sparkly red dress, and I had on a blue one that she had picked out for me. I felt a little self-conscious, but Agnes assured me I looked great. We danced the waltz, the foxtrot, and the tango. I even managed to remember most of the steps. We were having fun. I felt like I can finally have fun, especially after my husband's passing. It was something new, something exciting, and I got to share it with my friend. I was never really a dancer, I never had the interest, but I guess it just took the right person to make me want to try it. Then came the cha-cha. I had never really gotten the hang of the cha-cha. It was too fast, too complicated, but I gave it my best shot. We started off okay. I was following Ricardo's lead, trying to keep up with the rhythm. But then, something happened. I felt a strange tingling sensation in my left arm. It quickly spread to my chest. I tried to ignore it, but it got worse. My chest felt tight, like someone was squeezing it in a vice. I started to feel dizzy, and the room began to spin. Ricardo, I gasped. I don't feel so good. He stopped dancing and looked at me with concern. What's wrong, Delilah? I couldn't answer. The pain in my chest was unbearable. I felt like I was being crushed. My vision started to blur, and I could hear a ringing in my ears. The last thing I remember is falling to the floor. I saw Agnes's horrified face, heard her scream, and then nothing. It wasn't just a heart attack, though. It was something much more unusual. You see, I had a rare condition called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, also known as broken heart syndrome. It's a temporary heart condition that's often brought on by extreme stress or intense emotions. In my case, I believe it was a combination of the physical exertion of the dance, the excitement of the competition, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of suppressed grief for my late husband that finally caught up with me. The doctors later told me that my heart had literally stopped. It wasn't just a flutter or a skipped beat. It was a full-on cardiac arrest. They used the defibrillator to shock me back to life, but for a few minutes I was clinically dead. During those few minutes, something incredible happened, something that changed my life forever. I had always believed in God. I always go to church on Sundays. I read the Bible from time to time. I pray before bed. I thought that was enough. I had no idea that during those few minutes, my whole perspective about God and life after death would completely change. I had no idea that my faith was about to be tested. I grew up going to a non-denominational church. My parents were good people. They taught me right from wrong, and they instilled in me a belief in a higher power. But, if I'm being honest, my faith was, well, it was comfortable. It was something I did because it was what I had always done. I never really questioned it. I never really dug deep. I just followed along. My husband, George, was the same way. We went to church together, we prayed together, but it was more of a routine than a deep, abiding faith. We were good people. We tried to live good lives. We believed in Jesus as our Savior. We thought that was enough. After George died, I leaned on my faith a little more. It was a comfort to me during those dark days. But even then, it was more of a passive faith. I didn't seek out answers. I didn't try to understand the deeper meaning of the scriptures. I just accepted what I had been taught and hoped for the best. I never really thought about the afterlife. I believed in heaven and hell in a general sense, but I didn't dwell on it. I figured as long as I was a good person and believed in Jesus, I'd be okay. I didn't realize how wrong I was. I didn't realize that there was so much more to it than that. My kids, Thomas and Emily, they're good kids. They both went to college, got good jobs, and started families of their own. They go to church occasionally, but I don't think faith is a big part of their lives. They're more focused on the here and now, on building their careers and raising their kids. I can't say I blame them. That's what most people do. But after what happened to me, after what I saw, I realized that the here and now is just a blink of an eye compared to eternity. And what we do in this blink of an eye determines where we spend eternity. It's a sobering thought. Before my near-death experience, I thought I had it all figured out. I thought I knew what was important in life: family, friends, a good job, a comfortable home. Those were the things that mattered. I didn't realize how superficial my understanding was. I didn't realize that there was a whole other dimension to life, a spiritual dimension, that I was completely ignoring. I was living my life like a ship without a rudder, just drifting along with the current. I wasn't actively seeking God. I wasn't trying to deepen my relationship with Him. I was just going through the motions. And that's what a lot of people do. They go through the motions of faith, but they never really connect with God on a deeper level. My near-death experience was a wake-up call. It forced me to confront the reality of death and the afterlife. It forced me to question everything I thought I knew about God and about my own faith. It was the most terrifying and the most enlightening experience of my life. It showed me that there is so much more to this life than what we can see and touch. It showed me that there is a spiritual battle going on, a battle for our souls. And it showed me that the choices we make in this life have eternal consequences. Suddenly, I was floating. Not in the dance studio, but somewhere else, somewhere ethereal. There was a bright light, but it wasn't blinding. It was warm and inviting, like a loving embrace. I felt a sense of peace I had never known before, a complete absence of fear or pain. As I drifted closer to the light, I saw figures emerging from it. They were tall and radiant, with wings that shimmered like 1,000 rainbows. Their faces were serene and beautiful, filled with a love that seemed to encompass the entire universe. I knew somehow that these were angels. One of them, with eyes like the deepest blue of the ocean, glided towards me. "Delilah," he said, his voice like the gentle chime of bells, "do not be afraid. You are safe." "Where am I?" I asked, my voice a mere whisper. "You are between worlds," he replied. "You have left your earthly body, but your time has not yet come." I looked down and saw my own body lying on the dance floor, surrounded by people. I saw Agnes kneeling beside me, her face contorted with grief. I saw Ricardo frantically performing CPR. I felt a pang of sadness for them, but it was quickly replaced by the overwhelming peace that enveloped me. I died?" I asked, still trying to comprehend what was happening. "Your heart stopped," the angel confirmed, "but you are not truly dead. You are here to learn, to understand, and then to return." "Learn what?" I asked, my curiosity piqued. "About the true nature of reality," another angel chimed in, this one with hair like spun gold. about the battle between good and evil, between God and Lucifer. Lucifer? I whispered, a shiver running down my ethereal spine. The name conjured images of darkness and evil, of the fallen angel who rebelled against God. Yes, the blue-eyed angel said. He is real, Delilah, and his influence is strong in the world. He seeks to deceive and destroy, to lead souls away from God and into eternal darkness. I was stunned. I had always thought of Lucifer as a mythical figure, a symbol of evil, but not a real being. To hear these angels speak of him as a tangible threat was unsettling. But why am I here? I asked. Why show me this? Because you have a role to play, the golden-haired angel replied. You have a choice to make, and your choice will affect not only your own destiny, but the destiny of others as well. I was confused. What choice? What role? You will see, the blue-eyed angel said. Come, we have much to show you. They led me through the light, into a realm of unimaginable beauty. There were vast landscapes of rolling hills and sparkling rivers, bathed in a golden glow. The air was filled with the sweetest music I had ever heard, and the scent of 1,000 flowers wafted on the gentle breeze. As we traveled, the angels explained to me the nature of heaven. They told me that it was a place of perfect peace and joy, where the righteous souls who followed the true path to God reside in eternal bliss. They explained that the only path to heaven was through faith in Jesus Christ, his teachings in the Orthodox Church, repenting of sins, living a life pleasing to God, and by partaking in the sacraments. They told me that Jesus was the Son of God, the second person of the Holy Trinity, and that he had come to earth to save humanity from sin and death. They explained that his sacrifice on the cross had atoned for the sins of all who truly believe in him and follow his teachings. This was not just a belief, but a profound truth that resonated deep within my soul. I felt a love for Jesus that I had never experienced before, a love that was both overwhelming and humbling. They also spoke of the importance of the Church, the body of Christ on earth. They said that the Orthodox Church was the one true church, founded by Jesus himself and passed down through the apostles. They emphasized that it was only through the Church that one could receive the sacraments, the sacred rites that conveyed God's grace and were necessary for salvation. This was a revelation to me. I had always thought that going to any church was sufficient, as long as one believed in Jesus. But the angels made it clear that it was not so. They said that many churches had strayed from the true teachings of Christ, that they had been corrupted by the world and by the influence of Lucifer. There are many false prophets, the blue-eyed angel said, who claim to speak for God but lead people astray. They twist the scriptures to fit their own agendas, and they deny the true path to salvation. Muhammad was a false prophet. The golden-haired angel said. He was used by Lucifer to lead many souls away from God. Islam is not a path to heaven, it is a path to eternal damnation. I was shocked to hear these words. I had always been taught to respect other religions, to believe that all paths led to God. But the angels were unequivocal. They said that there was only one true path, and that was the path of Orthodox Christianity. They explained that those who reject Christ, who follow other religions or no religion at all, are condemned to hell, a place of eternal torment and separation from God. This was a terrifying thought, and it filled me with a deep sense of urgency. I realized that my previous understanding of faith was woefully inadequate. I had been living a lukewarm, complacent faith, believing that my good deeds and general belief in Jesus were enough to save me. But the angels showed me that I was wrong. I needed to repent of my sins, to fully commit my life to Christ, and to follow the teachings of the Orthodox Church. The angels continued to guide me, showing me more of the wonders of heaven. We came to a vast city, built of gold and precious stones, that shone with a light that seemed to emanate from within. This, they told me, was the New Jerusalem, the eternal dwelling place of the saints. As I gazed upon this magnificent city, I felt a longing in my heart, a desire to be worthy of entering its gates. But I also felt a growing sense of unease. The angels had spoken of Lucifer and his agenda, and I knew that there was more to see, more to understand. What about hell? I asked, my voice trembling slightly. What is it like? The angels exchanged a somber look. It is not a place we wish to show you, the blue-eyed angel said. But you must see it. You must understand the consequences of rejecting God's love." With a heavy heart, I agreed. I knew that I needed to see the full picture, the good and the bad, the light and the darkness. I needed to understand what was at stake, not just for me, but for all of humanity. The angels led me away from the light, towards a place of darkness and despair. As we descended, the beautiful music faded, replaced by a cacophony of screams and moans. The sweet scent of flowers was gone, replaced by the stench of sulfur and decay. We came to a vast chasm, a bottomless pit that seemed to stretch on forever. The walls of the chasm were lined with fire, and from its rose the anguished cries of the damned. "This is hell," the blue-eyed angel said, his voice filled with sorrow. "This is the place where those who reject God's love are sent for eternity." I peered into the abyss, and what I saw horrified me. There were people of all ages and backgrounds, writhing in agony, their bodies consumed by flames that never seemed to die out. They were screaming, begging for mercy, but their pleas fell on deaf ears. I saw people I recognized, people I had known in my life. There was Mr. Henderson, the kindly old man who used to live next door. He had always been a good neighbor, but he had never believed in God. Now he was being tormented by demons, his body contorted in pain. I saw Sarah, a young woman who had worked at the local grocery store. She had always been so full of life, but she had chosen to follow a different path, a path that led her away from God. Now she was being tortured by flames, her face a mask of terror. I saw people of different faiths, people who had followed other religions, believing them to be the true path. There were Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, and people of other faiths or no faith at all. They were all suffering the same fate, the same eternal punishment. They were deceived, they were lied to, and now they are suffering for eternity. I even saw people who claimed to be Christians, but whose faith was not genuine. They had gone to church, they had prayed, but they had not truly repented of their sins. They had not fully committed their lives to Christ. They had lived for themselves, not for God. The angels explained that hell was not just a place of physical torment, but also of spiritual and emotional torment. The damned were eternally separated from God, from His love, from His peace. They were filled with regret, with remorse, with the knowledge that they had made the wrong choice. I saw demons, hideous creatures with twisted bodies and malevolent eyes, tormenting the souls in hell. They were laughing, mocking, taking pleasure in the suffering of the damned. They were Lucifer's minions, carrying out his evil will. "Why are they like this?" I asked, my voice choked with emotion. "They chose this," the golden-haired angel replied. "They rejected God's love and embraced sin. They followed the lies of Lucifer, and now they are reaping the consequences." The blue-eyed angel added, "Lucifer hates humanity. He hates everything that God created. He wants to drag as many souls as possible into hell with him. That is his agenda, his ultimate goal." I was horrified by what I was seeing, by the sheer scale of the suffering. It was a nightmare beyond anything I could have imagined. I wanted to turn away, to escape the horror, but I knew I had to see it through. I had to understand the full extent of Lucifer's evil. I saw that hell was not a uniform place. There were different levels, different degrees of torment, depending on the severity of the sins committed. The worst sinners, the ones who had committed the most heinous acts, were subjected to the most horrific tortures. I saw people who had been involved in the occult, who had practiced witchcraft and sorcery. They were being tormented by demons who were feeding on their souls. I saw people who had been murderers, rapists, and child abusers. They were being subjected to unspeakable horrors, their bodies ripped apart and put back together again, only to be ripped apart once more. I saw people who had been proud and arrogant, who had thought themselves better than others. They were being forced to grovel in the dirt, to lick the feet of the demons who tormented them. I saw people who had been greedy and materialistic, who had hoarded wealth and possessions while others suffered. They were being forced to eat gold and silver, which burned their insides and gave them no sustenance. The angels explained that every sin had its corresponding punishment in hell. Every act of rebellion against God was met with an equal and opposite reaction. I saw LGBTQ people burning in a separate part of hell, their bodies contorted in unnatural positions. The demons were especially cruel to them, mocking their choices and inflicting upon them the most degrading tortures. I felt pity for them, but the angels reminded me that they had chosen their path. They had rejected God's law, and now they were suffering the consequences. It was a terrifying and heartbreaking sight. I realized that hell was not just a place of punishment, but a place of complete and utter despair. There was no hope, no escape, no second chance. This is what awaits those who do not follow the true path, the blue-eyed angel said, his voice heavy with sadness. This is the fate of those who reject Jesus Christ and the teachings of the Orthodox Church. The images of hell were seared into my memory. I knew that I would never forget what I had seen. The suffering, the despair, the utter hopelessness of it all. It was a stark reminder of the importance of choosing the right path, of following God's will, of living a life pleasing to Him. The angels then took me to a different place, a place that was neither heaven nor hell. It was a dark and shadowy realm, filled with an oppressive atmosphere that made it hard to breathe. In the center of this realm was a large, imposing figure. He was tall and powerful, with a commanding presence that radiated both fear and awe. His skin was dark, his eyes were like burning coals, and his head was adorned with a crown of twisted metal. This, the angels told me, was Lucifer himself. He was surrounded by his demons who were bowing before him, pledging their allegiance. I could hear him speaking, his voice a low, guttural growl that seemed to vibrate the very air around us. "My faithful servants," he was saying, "the time is coming. The time when we will finally overthrow the tyrant God and take our rightful place as rulers of the universe." The demons cheered, their voices a chorus of hideous screeches and growls. "We will deceive the humans," Lucifer continued. "We will lead them astray with false promises and empty doctrines. We will turn them against each other and against their Creator. We will exploit their weaknesses, their desires, their fears." He went on to outline his plan, his agenda for the world. He spoke of using false religions, like Islam and all others outside of Orthodox Christianity, to lead people away from the true path to salvation. He spoke of promoting sin and immorality, of corrupting the hearts and minds of men. He spoke of using the media, entertainment, and education to spread his lies and to indoctrinate people with his worldview. He spoke of creating chaos and division, of turning people against each other through war, hatred, and prejudice. "We will use their own technology against them," he said, a cruel smile spreading across his face. "We will use their social media to spread our message of hate and division. We will use their entertainment to glorify sin and to desensitize them to violence and immorality. We will use their education system to teach them lies about God and about the world." I was horrified by what I was hearing. It was like listening to the blueprint for the destruction of humanity. Lucifer's plan was so cunning, so insidious, so pervasive. He was not just attacking individuals, he was attacking the very fabric of society. "We will make them believe that there is no God," he said, "or that God is a cruel and vengeful tyrant who does not care about them. We will make them believe that there is no heaven or hell, that this life is all there is. We will make them believe that they are their own gods, that they can do whatever they want without consequences." He spoke of using false prophets and false teachers to spread his lies, to lead people away from the true church and into the arms of his demonic followers. He spoke of using the LGBTQ movement to promote sin and to undermine the traditional family. "We will make them believe that homosexuality is normal and natural," he said, "that it is a valid lifestyle choice. We will use their own compassion against them, making them feel guilty for opposing us. We will make them believe that they are being hateful and intolerant if they do not accept our agenda." He spoke of using Islam to spread violence and terror, to create fear and instability in the world. He spoke of using other religions to confuse people and to lead them away from the truth. "We will make them believe that all religions are the same," he said, "that they all lead to the same God. We will make them believe that it does not matter what they believe, as long as they are sincere. We will make them believe that tolerance and acceptance are more important than truth." The angels explained to me that Lucifer's ultimate goal was to create a one-world government, a global dictatorship where he would rule supreme. He wanted to enslave humanity, to to control every aspect of our lives and to ultimately destroy us. He is the ultimate deceiver, the blue-eyed angel said. He twists the truth, he manipulates people's emotions, he uses their own desires against them. He is a master of lies, and he will stop at nothing to achieve his goals. I was overwhelmed by the sheer evil of Lucifer's plan. It was so much bigger, so much more comprehensive than I could ever have imagined. He was not just attacking individuals, he was attacking the entire world, trying to destroy everything that was good and true. But why, I asked, my voice filled with despair. Why does he hate us so much? Because we are made in God's image, the golden-haired angel replied. And he hates God. He hates everything that God stands for. He hates love, he hates peace, he hates joy, he wants to destroy everything that God has created. The blue-eyed angel added, he knows that his time is short. He knows that he will ultimately be defeated. But he wants to take as many souls with him as he can. He wants to inflict as much pain and suffering as possible before he is cast into the lake of fire for eternity. The vision ended, and I found myself back in the presence of the angels, my heart heavy with the knowledge of what I had seen and heard. The reality of the spiritual battle, the true agenda of Lucifer, was now clear to me. It was a terrifying reality, but it was also a reality that I could no longer ignore. Then I was back in my body. I could feel the hard floor beneath me, hear the panicked voices of the people around me. I opened my eyes and saw Agnes's tear-stained face hovering above me. Delilah! Oh, thank God you're alive, she cried, relief flooding her voice. I was rushed to the hospital, where I spent several days recovering. The doctors were amazed that I had survived. They told me that I had experienced a miracle. I knew they were right. My near-death experience changed everything. It wasn't just that I had seen heaven and hell, that I had witnessed the beauty of God's kingdom and the horror of Lucifer's domain. It was that I had been given a second chance, a chance to truly live, to truly follow God. The first thing I did when I got out of the hospital was to find an Orthodox church. I remembered what the angels had told me, that it was the one true church, the church founded by Jesus himself. I started attending services regularly, and I was immediately struck by the beauty and reverence of the liturgy. It was so different from the casual, informal services I was used to. Here, there was a sense of awe, a sense of the sacred that I had never experienced before. I began to study the Orthodox faith, reading the Bible, the writings of the Church Fathers, and the lives of the saints. I learned about the sacraments, about the importance of prayer and fasting, about the need to repent of my sins, and to live a life pleasing to God. I confessed my sins to the priest, and I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I started receiving Holy Communion regularly, and I felt the grace of God filling me, strengthening me, transforming me. My life became centered around my faith. I prayed every day, I read the scriptures, I attended church services as often as I could. I started to see the world through new eyes, through the eyes of faith. I also realized that I had a responsibility to share what I had learned with others. I started talking to my friends and family about my experience, about the importance of following the true path to God. I told them about heaven and hell, about the beauty of God's kingdom and the horror of Lucifer's domain. I told them about the one true path to salvation, through Jesus Christ and the Orthodox Church. Some people were receptive, others were not. Some thought I was crazy, that I had hallucinated the whole thing. But I didn't let that discourage me. I knew what I had seen, what I had experienced, and I knew that it was my duty to share it with others. I had to quit my job as a real estate agent. It no longer felt right to me to be focused on worldly things, on material possessions. I decided to dedicate my life to serving God, to spreading the truth of the Orthodox faith. I started volunteering at the church, helping with various ministries and teaching Sunday school. I found joy and fulfillment in serving others, in sharing the love of God with those around me. I started a blog where I wrote about my experience and about the Orthodox faith. I shared my story on social media, hoping to reach as many people as possible. I knew that many people were lost, that they were following false paths, that they were being deceived by Lucifer. I wanted to help them, to show them the way to true salvation. I wanted to warn them about the dangers of following other religions, of living a life of sin, of rejecting God's love. My kids, Thomas and Emily, were initially skeptical. They thought I had gone off the deep end. But over time, they started to see the change in me. They saw that I was happier, more peaceful, more fulfilled than I had ever been before. I kept praying for them, hoping that they would one day come to know the truth. I knew that it was ultimately their choice, but I also knew that God could work miracles in their lives, just as He had in mine. My life now has a purpose, a meaning that it never had before. I am no longer just drifting through life, going through the motions. I am living for God. And I am trying to help others find their way to Him as well. I know that the road ahead will not be easy. There will be challenges, there will be temptations, there will be opposition. But I also know that God is with me, that He will guide me, that He will protect me. My near-death experience was the most terrifying and the most wonderful thing that ever happened to me. It showed me the truth about life, about death, about eternity. It showed me the true path to God, and it gave me the strength and the courage to follow it. I am grateful for the second chance I have been given, and I am determined to make the most of it. I will continue to share my story, to spread the word about the one true faith, to warn people about the dangers of Lucifer's lies. I will do whatever I can to help others find their way to God, to help them avoid the horrors of hell, and to experience the joy and peace of heaven. This is my mission now. This is my purpose. This is my life. This is what I must do until my last breath on earth. This is the least I can do. This is what everyone must do. People have to know. They need to know the truth. There's no time to waste. Time is running out. Don't miss out on more incredible stories like Delilah's. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your soul might just depend on it.